everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria and I am an intuitive trance channel and energy reader, and I've been posting videos for a while, on and off, for many years now. I started beginning of the year really posting a lot of content, but every time that I start to post, it brings up things that I need to work on and heal to become more and more authentic. I feel like what I'm going to talk about today is going to be about my personal experience, is what I'm going to talk about today, but I feel like I'm sharing it because somebody here needs to hear it, needs to use it as a reference point for their own journey. So I had a spiritual awakening 7 years ago. I've always been extremely intuitive, but I had no idea what it was. Spirit or spirituality was not a part of my world. I knew religion, but I did not know anything about spirituality or this giant other realm other than the physical. I always remember feeling like there's just something right there. Like, why isn't anyone talking about it? It's this presence of energy that's right there, and I didn't even have the cognitive ability to even put that into conscious thought, but I always felt that way. I always would say things I didn't really understand. I would say I don't believe in a guy sitting above the clouds, but I believe in a higher power. And I remember saying that when I was very young, and I really had no idea why I was saying it, but I knew that it was true. My whole life I didn't talk very much, but when I did talk, it was like somebody else was talking for me, and I never really knew where the words came from. And lots of times it would be very, very specific and very, very people would be like, how did you know that? Or why did you know that? Or where did that come from? And I always knew not to think about it too much. I always knew, I don't know, but I kind of know. And then one day I'll know. But I never thought that thought in my conscious mind, because I knew I was very aware of my subconscious mind, or my higher self. My whole life I was my higher self, I would say. And I knew that if I brought it into my conscious mind, like the forefront, that is when it gets all twisted up. So my subconscious mind was extremely expansive, and I lived there pretty much my whole life until my awakening. But my conscious mind, the part of our mind that allows you to rationalize, was completely unconscious to me, strangely. So anything that came into my conscious mind, as soon as I had a conscious thought, my mind it was very unhealthy. It was like it would get twisted. So I had OCD and ADHD and all these extreme things that come with a very conscious mind. And I don't know, I've talked to ChatGPT about this, because I'm like, I don't know, do other people experience this? So I can see energy very, very clearly. I can see what people are feeling and thinking in their pain body and their energy field, and I can see all the elements to them. But the one thing that's very interesting to me too is that I can't see in somebody is where their perspective is. I can see what is happening in their field, but I can't tell exactly where their conscious is perceiving, which is super interesting. I can tell somebody is sad and why they're sad, but I can't tell for sure if they know why they're sad. I find that so cool. This is kind of a little tangent, and I hope I can get back to my original point, but I feel like saying this because it's interesting. So I'm aware now of my conscious self. So my conscious self is this little energy zone, this central energy point that hovers around. And if it hovers in your heart, in your center, the closer you can connect it to your center, the more well-rounded you'll become, because you'll be in the middle of all the access points. It can, you can be in your head, you can be in your body, if you're in survival mode, you're governing your lower chakras. If you're in your head, you're governing your higher chakras. We call this the 5D and the 3D, but really it's just this, different energy zones in our body. And when we get home into our heart through unconscious unraveling, we start to source our energy from our center. And then that is when it becomes really clear what's happening in its reality, because we can see the heaven and hell essentially all at once. And that makes it, honestly, turns this into a utopia. This, but I'm like, so I am planning to start doing readings again, and I'm very, very hesitant to say that. And Spirit is, has been gently guiding me back to this. So Spirit wants me to talk about this specifically. So I think this is I'm going to be doing readings, and I've always felt this way for people who do readings. People who are on the spiritual path. I'm just going to help you, because once I had my spiritual awakening is when I lost sight of my intuition, as crazy as that is. My intuition always just guided me naturally through my life. I look back at my life and it wasn't perfect, and I had a lot of pain in my emotional body, but I always knew where to go, and I never felt like I was ever out of alignment of my path, even if it looked dark. I knew that I was there for a reason. So then, when I had my spiritual awakening, I became aware of my conscious mind, right? And then that's when everything got really confusing. So now I can be aware of the part of me that is limited. And the thing about that is that you are perceiving your conscious mind with your conscious mind. So you become kind of like through like those little scopes that get smaller and smaller. Your perspective starts to shrink, because you're perceiving what you're perceiving. And it's really the only way, in my opinion, or from my experience, to sort out the conscious mind is to consciously observe it. So you become self-conscious of your conscious mind. And it's very confusing time, because you can only see one little piece of the puzzle at a time, and you kind of have to just like go through the giant spectrum of your whole persona and sort it out. When I had my spiritual awakening, I received a message from a medium, and I was always like really, really drawn to mediums, and I always felt like I have this power, but I don't know where, like, why isn't anyone talking about it? Answered the questions that I had written to my son that passed away. And it just was finally, like, she just messaged me out of nowhere. I had never really thought of it. I had gotten psychic readings before, and I've been very connected to the thought of it, but there was never enough evidence for me or something. Like I couldn't, because no one else was talking about it. Like, well, I believe in it. Why isn't anyone else? Like, I need, but I didn't really think of it like that. It was more like a sadness. Like, why isn't anyone talking about this? So then I had this reading, and it was so perfectly spot on about what I had written in this letter that nobody had ever read. And in that moment, my heart just burst open in a million pieces, and my consciousness went up and I just like touched God. It was like a split second, but it was like and the light of love hit me in my eyeball, like I can still feel it, and it's like this, like the Big Bang. That's what it felt. And then it collapsed, and then I was just sitting there like, oh my God, God's real. I looked over to my partner and I'm like, oh my God, God's real. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, well, why didn't he tell me? Like I knew, but like now I know. And that light went into every orifice of my being, and it just like sucked it in. And then I went through this massive, expansive journey. So I've heard about walk-ins. When people say like, you had a walk-in. And from a perspective of myself, I guess I would say that, but this is what I would see now as a more clear definition or description. So I had my spiritual awakening. And I was just love. I was gleaming love to everybody. Everybody always felt like better around me. They were like, wow, like what's going on with you? Like you're so light. And that lasted for a while. And then that lasted for a few months. And then all of a sudden, someone guided me to get Reiki. I heard the word Reiki and like, what the heck's Reiki? So I went to get Reiki, and the guy was like, what the heck's going on with you? Like, I've never felt energy like this before. And the whole time that I was doing Reiki, my hand like wanted to move. And I was like, oh, that's weird. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but like that's the strongest energy I ever felt. He's like, go get some cards and start doing some Reiki and some readings. I'm like, okay. He's like, ask for a physical sign. Okay. So I go back to my house. I'm feeling nervous to say this. I feel like I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, okay. So I go back to my house and I'm like laying on the couch and I ask for a physical sign. Such like sacred information. Like I think that's why I'm like feeling like apprehensive about sharing it. King of Cups reversed. Yeah, this is like emotional suppression, I guess. So yeah, maybe it's just bringing up emotion as I say it out loud. It's kind of like making me want to cry. Showing me like it's because of like the pain that I had to go through to get here, the initiation, and I think that's what I'm going to call this video. Yeah, my story of my initiation. That feels better. So I was laying on the couch and I asked for a physical sign. And all of a sudden my like hand like really wants to move, and I'm like, oh, that's freaky. Like I don't want to move my hand. Like that's weird. But I was like so high, and I was like, okay, you know, like whoo. And then I just like let it move, and then the other hand wanted to move, and then it like wanted me to stand up, and then I'm like doing this like crazy dance thing, and I'm like, holy moly, and like it is so like undeniably something is moving me, you know. And I knew right away, like it's spirit. It's the source of spirit. So spirit is the physical movement of source is what the closest thing I can come up to describe it, you know. Even when spirit talks to me, it's not one specific energy. They might present themselves as one specific energy, but it's like a stream of water, okay? And they might like highlight one of the frequencies. So like Archangel Michael is very heart-centered. So if they're trying to get you to connect with your heart center, they're going to bring up Archangel Michael, which we call Archangel Michael, but it's actually the frequency of your heart chakra. Okay, so it's an energy from source that we can translate into physical human perspectives. Oh, that's what, yeah. So I'm just going to stop there and let's go back to so when you become conscious of your conscious mind, then you become self-conscious of your conscious mind while you're starting to heal it. So self-conscious of your conscious mind is going to be you're hyper-aware. You're going to say things like, I'm super self-aware. Okay, that means that you're conscious of your conscious mind, but you're self-conscious of it. So you haven't fully integrated back. So what's the best description I have? So there's a river. No, life is a river. That's the flow. Okay? When you're unconscious of your conscious mind or your subconscious mind, you are of your conscious mind, sorry. Subconscious always, it's omnipresent. It's always there. Some people almost never have access to it. But if you're unconscious of your conscious mind, you are drowning in the river, most likely. Okay? You are getting swept away, whatever way the current wants to go, that is the way that you'll go. If it forks off, you don't have a choice. You just gotta go with the fork. You can't stay with the mainstream, or you can't break off on the fork. You have to stay with mainstream, whichever way you want to look at it. When you become conscious of your conscious mind, self-conscious of your conscious mind, you put yourself on the shore. Now you can see the river objectively, which means that you're not in it. But you are going to start to see yourself as you do other people. And I went through this through my spiritual awakening. I seen myself as like this little self. And I was like, oh, poor little self. I treated myself like I do my children, which to everyone else around me looked like I was being arrogant or self-centered, ironically. And I was, though, because it wasn't a grounded presence yet, but it was necessary in order to heal my inner child. So then you stay on the shore until you can figure out how to float on the water. So once you become aware of your conscious mind, you heal your unconscious parts of you and my eyes just twitching like crazy, start to come together. You get all the things sorted and you can tell what's happening in reality. Then you got to immerse yourself into the river. Okay, and this is like if you hear the omnipresence or the ultra consciousness. This is where lots of people get stuck because they're like, well, I don't want to go back in the river. I'm just going to stay on the side where I am in control and I don't have to feel anymore. I can just, and it turns into spiritual ego. Well, spiritual ego is essentially when you're on the shore, but it's a part of your evolution. You need to figure it out. You need to debunk the ego in spirituality, just like you have to debunk the ego in the physical reality. So going back into the river, like most people don't want to do it, right? And I think all of, especially the masculine-based spiritual teachers, they're just sitting on the side of the river and they're not getting back in the water. They're just living in this spiritual realm that doesn't exist in reality, and it isn't reality, and you won't create positive energy because what you're doing is lack. It's a lack mindset. And I see this in so many spiritual teachings. It's just spiritual ego wrapped up in a fancy bow, and it's just avoiding the problem. If you think of Jesus, we know of his story the best, but I refer to when I think about what would Jesus do, because Jesus wouldn't just sit on the sidelines and tell everybody what to do. He got in there, he got his hands dirty, he wasn't afraid to die, he wasn't afraid to get hurt. He wasn't just meditating on a mountain. You know, you have to integrate. You have to integrate to become embodied. And you only become embodied when you get in the water. So I spent a lot of time on sidelines, and I was like, something's wrong. Like, something's wrong. My body is screaming. Could feel it. It was like I was disconnected from my body. It was just my higher self. Ooh, this is great. I can just, like, you know, spiritual bypass myself into believing everything's perfect and ignore reality. And then my body was screaming, and it started to hurt. And I just knew, like, what about the other half of me? Like, I can't just leave the other half behind. Like, I have to bring my 3D self with me too. So that's when I had to go jump back in the river with my conscious mind now, and then learn how to swim. And that meant going through the 3D ego and connecting it to the spiritual ego. Well, connecting the 3D self to the 5D self, and merging those together, that information, and balancing each and every frequency with 3 and 5D to become 4D. And once I started to become 4D, I started to float on top of the water. Now I'm in control. I am in the river. I am in reality. I am immersed. I am embodied. But now I get to control which way I go. I can go down that river. I can go down that path. I am enjoying life, and I'm seeing everybody else drowning around me. And from that perspective, you mean you can help people up, but you really can't help people until you're floating on top of the water. And this is going to be for someone specific here, but this came up, okay? So spiritual ego, I see this all the time, and it makes me sick to my stomach because I've been through it, tells you that you need to help everybody and you need to be selfless, okay? But that's coming from a lack mindset of, you know, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. You think you need to do all these things to be worthy of love or to be a good person, okay? But the reality isn't either of those, okay? So if that's a positive, that's out of balance. And a negative will be the other way around. We don't need to help anyone, blah, 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 blah. In the middle of positive and negative, always, always, always polarities is zero, neutral. You need to find a zero. That's the embodied energy. That's where you took both information and you made it into wisdom. And you've embodied it now, and the truth would say something like, do I have the presence, energy, resources to help you right now? Yes or no? And that will be different in every single moment. And that's embodiment. Okay, it has nothing to do with the future. It's not consistent. Spiritual ego will tell you now. And then spiritual ego or our 3D ego will say later. And it's never that. It's always what is happening now. How do I feel right now? Do I have the energy? No, I don't. I wish I could help that person, but I can't today. I'm not sure I'm capable of helping that person right now because I'm still helping myself. Okay, those are real, rounded words, and that's why, like, spiritual people ignore reality a lot, and I find psychology is a really good definition or resource that meets the 5 and 3D. It says something like, you know, all it is in the moment. So the moment would be, man, I want to help people. I really do want to help people. It would make me so happy. It would make me feel really good about myself. But maybe I only want to help people to feel better about myself. Okay, so why do I feel like I need to help people in order to feel better about myself? And then you'll feel that. Where's that wound coming from? And sit there and feel that. Feel that wound. Okay? This is for so many people, okay? I see this so much. You're like beating yourself to death and doing all this spiritual work when you're not even healed. You're still drowning in the river, or you're like not even in the river. You know, so you can't even help them. You're just going to lead them in the wrong direction. You're like, oh, come on to the shore. They're like, what's the shore? Like, and they're like not ready to come on the shore. And you like woke them up way too early. And now they're like sitting on the shore and they're lost as hell, you know, and, you know, just because your ego wanted to do that, right? And it's your ego, yeah, it's beautiful, but it is still creating negative energy. So you need to be honest with yourself, okay, that you're not ready. And that is going to help people. When you are in your zero frequency, your God frequency, in your soul, in your source, you are helping people, whatever that looks like. Honoring your true feelings. And that's all we're doing here. We're finding our true feelings. That is the 4D. And we honor those, and we know how to express those and embody those, and you just be. You just be who you are, okay? But you can't do that until you know those feelings, okay? And that's what people are like, oh, just quiet your mind, just change your thoughts. And it's like, good grief, people. That is a great idea if you want to, lose track of reality, become dissociated and delusional, honestly, because I've been there. Because as soon as I found out I, had a conscious mind, everyone's like, okay, well, to meditate. And then I meditated, and oh my God, this thing's so loud. And they're like, okay, now quiet your mind. So I was just like, okay, you shut up and you shut up. Just push that down rather than just pay attention. Meditation, it can be for many things. Okay, you can learn about the higher realms. You can, I think it has two purposes. People do it to learn about the higher realms or help themselves. Okay, I think meditation is only meant to help ourselves. Okay, and yeah, that's what it is. It's just quieting down to see what's happening. So when you start to meditate and you start to hear your mind and you're like, oh, just shut up, just turn that off. All you're doing is taking that high energy and you're just pushing it down. Guess what? That causes disease. You're going to shove it down. You're suppressing it. You're suppressing your emotions because those thoughts are coming from your energy field, and your energy field is your feelings. So these natural feelings come up just like, and then you come into your mind and your mind's like, I have this belief that's making this scary, and then it turns into this emotion. And emotion is this big block that lives in your body and causes you pain. So when you're sitting there and you're meditating and you feel these thoughts, you don't change them. You just pay attention. Like, where are they coming from? Why are they there? What are they trying to tell me? And you write it down. And you feel compassion for yourself for having those feelings, those thoughts. That's it. That's it. It's so simple and it's so misconstrued, especially in the spirituality world. Like, I would say the 3D world has a better construct in psychology than what I see in the spiritual world of people trying to help other people. It's like, that is not going to work. It's like, oh, change your thoughts, change your reality. Like, oh, the law of attraction. Like, gag. Honestly, if you want me to throw up, talk about the law of attraction. So law of attraction, what does it say? It says you say the same thing over and over and over again, and then it comes true. Okay, your thoughts create your reality. Okay, I've been here. I had extreme fear of my thoughts. Created a severe, obsessive, compulsive fear of my thoughts because I thought my thoughts were going to create my reality. So I was terrified of any negative thought. I was like suppressing those down. Guess what? I became completely detached. My left and right hemisphere of my brain separated. My whole body split in two, okay? Absolutely horrible idea. I mean, if you want to get to know every single quantum level meridian in your body, sure, that might be the way to do it. You do it completely wrong, so then you have to go and stitch yourself back up, which I've had to do. I mean, you learn a lot, but you don't need to. You don't need to do that. You can do a different way, and it's be much easier on you. And you don't have any long-term issues from it, because there's always residual pain from that kind of separation. But what is true? Okay, your thoughts create reality. No, absolutely 0, 0, 0, 0. Your thoughts are the last thing before it becomes physical. I mean, the first thing, but so the big thing is energy field. So your energy field creates your reality. That's it. You can get a glimpse into your energy field by paying attention to your thoughts, like I just said. Okay, so my thoughts are really negative right now. That means my energy field is negative. Why am I feeling negative? Okay, I'm really resentful because I feel like everybody takes advantage of me. And that makes me want to not help anyone and makes me want to have self-pity. Okay. Wow. All right. That's a huge revelation. Okay. Why do people take advantage of me? Why do they feel like they can take advantage of me? Because I don't have self-esteem. Okay. Why don't I have self-esteem? Well, because when I was little, every time I spoke up, I felt shut down. And it never made me get to know myself. Okay, so the reason you don't have self-esteem is because you don't know who you are. And if you did know who you are, you'd think you're freaking awesome because everybody is awesome. So then your thoughts aren't creating your reality. They are showing you what is happening in your reality and giving you an insight to what you need to do to change it. And if we just go, oh, I just gotta, okay, instead of thinking, okay, so your husband doesn't help you enough around the house and you have thought forms all day about him. But you've heard your thoughts create your reality. So now you're just suppressing your truth with a nice, pretty bow. You're putting lipstick on a pig. Oh, okay, well, I don't want to create negative energy, so I'm just going to pretend that I don't mind that much, that he doesn't help me around the house. Okay. No, because that's just going to create disillusion. Now you're not going to know what the hell is going on. He's going to be able to gaslight you because you just constantly put a spiritual twist on everything, make everything different, and now you have no connection to reality. And the problem is it's going to get worse. Now he can manipulate you because you're just going to be like, oh, it's fine, yeah, and you become like this twisted people pleaser from the spiritual realm. In that situation, what would you do? Okay, I have constant thought forms that my husband isn't helping me enough. Okay. Sit with that. Accept that first. Breathe. How do you feel now? Did it dissipate? Is it that important? Or is it deeper? Okay, this is how you tell truth from fear. Okay, fear isn't real, right? We say that all the time, but what the hell does that mean? So there's truth and then there's not truth. Okay, so your true feelings are consistent. They are always there. They get layered and layered and layered with the secondary, third, fourth layer feelings. But the first feelings are the true ones, and they're present. They are what your energy field would be no matter what. Okay, they are your natural, authentic response to reality. And if you're not in touch with those, life will be very confusing because you need those to figure out how you feel about reality and then what you need to do about it. Okay, so I mean, this is going to be objective to every single person, but I feel like this is a common problem. So your partner doesn't help you enough, whichever way you feel. Could be boy, girl, doesn't matter. And then you're constantly having thought forms about them. Okay, so you sit there and you just breathe through the thought form. That's step number 1. Okay. That is you accepting that you have thought forms about your spouse, okay? That is like the obvious thing that you need to accept because sometimes that's all you need to do to change it, right? And that's step number 1, that acceptance, and you got to breathe through this discomfort because after you stop the obsessive thought form comes the feeling underneath of it. So you sit with that brutally painful energy, and it's going to be brutal because maybe you've been avoiding it forever. What's it saying? It could say something like, are my expectations too high? Are they really too high? Or am I really happy in this relationship? Or where do I need to find some more balance? How can I express myself in a way that is heard? I'm trying to objectify this, but this is actually something I'm going through, so it's kind of personal. So when I had my spiritual awakening, I had just been with my partner for a year and a half, and we had a baby, and the baby passed away, and that was the reason of my spiritual awakening. So we didn't really know each other, but I had these constant thought forms about him not helping me enough and kind of like making me feel like I wasn't doing good enough. He came from a family where the woman does everything, and I came from a family where it's not the same. And when I found spirituality, they're like, oh, your thoughts create your reality. So I'm like, okay, well, then I'll just change my thoughts. And what I did was I started to think about him more positively, which was helpful. But it was self-diminishing, okay? So it's a very, very, very tight-knit cycle here where I have to balance myself and my priorities simultaneously with him. And I ended up losing myself trying to figure out this situation. And 7 years later, I have unraveled all the layers that I went through and then came back. And just today I felt like, holy crap, I'm back to where I was, standing in the kitchen there having the thought forms when I thought, okay, I'll just change my thoughts, change my reality. Guess what? I lost myself completely. I became quite delusional. Was able to get gaslit and manipulated because I didn't have any backbone of reality to stand on. And it caused me a lot of pain and suffering, which is crazy that it was to do with that. And if you're a twin flame, I don't know, maybe you've been through the same journey, because I really don't like the concept of a twin flame, but I can't freaking deny it. Like, there's something about it that is next level hard. And I don't know if it's true or not. I really still don't. But it helps you grow through the pain, which, I mean, if I heard anyone else say that, I'd be like, well, that doesn't sound great. I think you should leave. But if you're in this kind of dynamic, and I know I'm like way off course, and I hope I don't lose everybody here, then oh shoot, lost my thought there. But yeah, you learn through these hard relationships because they mirror to you the things that you lack. You know, consideration, compassion, empathy. It's like, okay, how expansive can you get without losing yourself, and while also being authentic, you know? And I think that is what true love is. And that's what we've forgotten here in this lifetime. I'm pulling out the last pieces of the 3D ego and the last pieces of the spiritual ego at this time to, I guess, create union in my twin flame relationship, is what the spiritual world calls it. 3D world would call it a toxic relationship causing you to grow. And I think both are true. But the reality is, this relationship, even though I freaking hate it most of the time, helps me grow on a level that I can't access anywhere else. I know I don't have to do this relationship. Spirit tells me that all the time. I went back and forth about leaving it a million times. And there's this little piece inside me that says, I don't want to. I want to keep fighting it out to find harmony. I want to keep battling. It's like I'm here to battle with this human to create perfect harmony, because it's going to help the earth. And we mirror such opposites to each other that I take two extremes and then I have to figure out where the balance is. It's like this beautiful mathematical equation that I've been doing for 7 years. And obviously that sounds exactly like a trauma bond, and it is. But it also is a deep spiritual purpose. It is. And I know that is probably, you know, red flag, but they're both true. And I know I can leave anytime, and I have no problem leaving, and I have the confidence and the ability, and, you know, there's nothing in fear making me stay. It is pure stubbornness. and like, I'm going to figure this out. I mean, but it changes. So, like, if there comes a day where I've had enough, I'm going to leave. But for now, I'm committed to trying. And I think that is what we've forgotten here, even if it's not a twin flame specifically, is what true love is. You know, can you work through your differences? Can you keep fighting? It's so easy to just to give up all the time. Move on. But I find that it leaves unfinished business. And it leaves like these broken energy cords. My relationships before that, they just naturally finished themselves. This one, it's not finished yet. I can't leave something unfinished. You know, and I know like psychology and whatever 3D advice would say like that is so bad. And I know, I'm aware of that. It could be, but I know they don't know in the way that I do. And I see other relationships similar to this, and I'm like, oh, I could see you guys are the same in that you are on the same level of imbalance on the opposite ends of each other. You are coming together because the universe naturally does that to create harmony again. So you battling it out. So one person is overly positive, so they have too many this issues. They're probably too much. And the other person is a negative, so they have too little, so they have not enough. So one thinks they're not enough, one is too much. So one is like overcompensating and one is kind of undercompensating. So like anxious avoidant would be the closest psychological term. They come together just like two magnets. Exactly. You know, and you could call that a twin flame or whatever, or just the universe just doing its job to create harmony. So every time you battle through that and you neutralize those out into zero, right? Not two positives. I mean, two positives make a positive, two negatives make a positive, but a positive and negative make a negative. So you have to neutralize those. You unlock levels of the earth, okay? So because people have blind spots. So this person only knows positive, this person only knows negatives. They come together, they help each other unlock these little blind spots, and that helps you learn to get closer and closer to your center and unlock little energy dynamics and remove energy blocks and cords within yourself, because you're learning a new way to reality. And yes, it's extremely hard, and yes, it's extremely difficult, and yes, you have to have discernment 100%, but it's going to teach you discernment better than anything in the whole world. It will teach you discernment. And if you're staying out of any kind of fear, then you need to get out for a minute, reevaluate, and, you know, figure out, like, am I staying out of fear, or is this something that I freaking know that I'm supposed to be doing? Okay? Because I see lots of extremely toxic, extremely unconscious, extremely lacking discernment relationships on the twin flame world that are not helping reality. They are absolutely not helping reality. Okay? And that is a true toxic trauma bond, okay? But if you can get closer to your center because of something you're battling through, then I would say yes, that's probably a good thing. Even if it's freaking hard as hell and you hate it most of the time. Freaking hate it. I do. I'm so pissed off. I wish I had a nice, easy relationship, but I know my body needs this because I got so out of balance. I lived in a completely masculine world. Masculine. Go, go, go. Action, action, action. He lived in a completely feminine world. You know, feel, nurture, allow. And mine was like, no, don't allow, don't show, don't. So we like collided together, you know, and he's taught me how to nurture those feminine energies, and I'm trying to teach him how to have more masculine energies and come into harmony, because, you know, that would but, you know, I know, like, I've pretty much harnessed everything I can out of this relationship, but I finally just learned how to be a teacher to him in a way that doesn't trigger his avoidance, so that he can learn from my qualities as well. And so I know that I can't leave until I give it a full go about, like, can he do this? Can I, and can I hold space for him to do it? Can I be comfortable in his discomfort? And that's a huge, huge masculine ego thing, that the masculine thinks the feminine needs to be perfect all the time and makes them feel afraid and insecure when the feminine isn't perfect. Okay, so that might be a message for somebody here. Feminine energies hold and hold and hold, and masculine energies only want perfect or they'll run away. And I was like that. All right, I don't know. This is the end of this video. This is all that wanted to come out here, and I feel great about sharing it. Hoping it's going to find the right people. And yeah, let me know what you think. All right. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.